On a spaceship somewhere, sailing across an empty sea. This time tomorrow, what will we know? Will we still be here, watching an in-flight movie show? I'll leave the sun behind me, and I'll watch the clouds as they sadly pass me by. 7 miles below me.
Let's delve into the mysteries of the Mothman.
Yeah, and the Men in Black.
And the Men in Black.
They're all intertwined together.
We kind of realized that while coming down that the story was much bigger than just the Mothman. Initially, we kind of came down thinking that we were going to be like, hey, let's find out the Mothman, let's find his story, let's find out, like what brought about it and why it's such a national phenomenon that it is. We kind of came to the realization that it's not so much the Mothman as it is the surroundings, the things that surround him.
Yeah.
Right? It's like
From multiple paranormal happenings. Got multiple sightings of the Men in Black. We got multiple sightings of the Mothman in different situations. In fact, we've got the alien Ingrid Cold, who also known as the Smiling Man, who basically terrorized Woodrow Derenberger.
I can just imagine him running around like,
I know,
just waving his hands.
I know.
I'm being terrorized.
Well, no, you didn't waste it.
Ingrid Cold.
He was. This was Cold's position.
Yeah, he was Molly Shannon.
All the time. Yeah.
The superstar.
Yeah, superstar. But yeah, he had his hands like this, and he spoke to Woody telepathically. They never had a conversation, like this,
No.
face to face vocally.
One of my favorite stories was he was just like, we'll talk telepathically if that's okay with you.
Yeah.
And it just completely flips him out.
Yeah.
Because who the fuck wants to talk telepathically?
Like, so his first meeting of Ingrid Cold, this cylinder of a UFO lands in front of Woody's car or van, I guess. He had like a work van full of sewing machines because he was a salesman, and so this cylinder of a UFO basically gains on Woody, slows him down to a stop, lands, a door opens, and Woody said it creaked like a car door. So, I'd say earthly mechanics there,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's weird that it sounds like a car door.
Yeah. I mean, he made that point. So, and then Ingrid Cold comes walking towards his car, and Woody, he's asking Woody to roll down his window, and Woody doesn't even realize at first that he's not moving his lips.
I mean, let's be real. Did Woody take shrooms? Like, I can see. Look, I can honestly see you dropping shrooms, right? And then you're like rolling down the highway, just fucking tripping balls.
All right.
And a policeman like pulls you over, and you hear the car door, and it's like, "Hey, license and registration." Of course, he's going to sound like a fucking alien.
Well, I don't know. Woody Derenberger is one of the more credible witnesses, according to a lot of people, because he had a few interactions with Cold, and in his first interaction with Cold, he didn't even get his first name. He just said, "My name is Cold," and but then he had other, he had the telltale telephone calls from that the other UFO abductees. People have cited UFOs. They get a lot of weird phone calls. I'd say Woody Derenberger's interaction with Cold might have been the first Men in Black or Man in Black interaction in the area. It didn't actually happen in Point Pleasant. It was about 50 miles away on a deserted road. But after that, you've got for 13 months people seeing the Mothman, men in black suits, ill-fitting black suits, I might add, in black Cadillacs parked outside of Mary Hyre's house. Same thing with Woody Derenberger. Yeah, I'm just calling him Woody.
Just call him Woody.
Yeah. Same thing with Woody, and the people that originally cited the Mothman had the same thing. Guys parked outside of their house. They won't talk about it now, though, according to Jeff.
Yeah, they won't. And like, here's the thing: is a lot of people
they'll say something happened, but they won't talk about it.
But real supernatural cases, real chasing of them, real admitting that you've seen shit,
kind of ruins your life.
It ostracizes you.
Yeah.
And so a lot of these people that did see shit would be like, I saw the Mothman. And someone would be like, oh, it was probably a sandhill crane. And it's like, no, it was a Mothman.
We're going to say that it wasn't a crane.
It wasn't a crane.
No, it wasn't a crane.
It wasn't, okay. So there's a theory behind it that the Mothman itself was a sandhill crane, which has a wingspan of about 7 feet.
10 feet.
10 feet? Alright, yeah. It stands on 2 legs, kind of has a fucking...
It's also we found out...
body.
We found out today that they're not afraid of humans.
Yeah, and they're not afraid of humans.
Yeah.
So they'll walk right up to you and peck shit out of you. And you know what? To an extent, if the 1 or 2 or even 3 sightings in that area were a crane, that would be fine if it wasn't followed by a bunch of weird bullshit.
Yeah.
Like,
and the glowing red eyes, and the you know, it was interesting today on the tour. Jeff kind of played down the conjunctivitis.
Yeah.
But actually, you know, in Keel's book, like, he talks about the conjunctivitis quite a bit. You know, the glow from the Mothman's red eyes sort of burned people's eyes a little bit, and they actually, you know, took them a couple of weeks to recover, and that matches up with a lot of UFO sightings and abductions. You know, the Travis Walton case, his crew, the guys who stayed in the truck while Travis got out and walked into an alien beam. All those guys got cancer. The guy who was in the driver's seat had his arm out like this. And he had horrible radiation burns up and down his arm, and had skin cancer on his arm. So
the Mothman actually doesn't just encompass a sandhill crane.
Yeah, it's not a crane.
It's wrapped up in weird phone calls from people that we don't understand. And like, I don't mean, you know, have you checked your vehicle fucking insurance lately? I mean, like, weird heavy breathing on the other end, clicks that could be hypnotic, followed by government lockdowns at one point. There's an actual naval base that's under wraps down here. There's a bunch of weird shit that happened in this area in the 13 months between November 1966 and I think it was December
15th, 1977.
But the government cover-up, like, and it goes a little bit weirder than that, because it's like, was it government? You know, like the Men in Black.
I don't think the Men in Black were related to the U.S. government at all. Personally,
you don't think so?
No. I think they are some sort of interdimensional, because I think they're just the interactions with them were too weird to have been CIA or FBI. You know, CIA and FBI come in, show you ID, ask you questions. They don't come in, ask for a fucking cup of salt so you can take a pill.
Oh, yeah.
That is not government behavior.
One of the fucking weirder ones was like 3 men in black basically showed up at this house, and what happens when you encounter the men in black is you tend to do stuff that you're not accustomed to, right?
So you probably wouldn't do normally.
Yeah, so if they're like, hey, we're here, and we're like, who, or if it's like, hey, I'm injured Cole, without even asking who you are, we're here to talk about UFOs in the area, you just immediately start answering them.
Yeah.
Which is fucking weird.
It's weird.
And one of them, they went into the house, and they were just like digging beneath the fucking kitchen sink like a possum, like, and they find like a fucking jug of bleach.
It was a jug of bleach, yeah.
Yeah, and they're just like, what is this? And the dude's like, that's bleach, bro. And he's like, and he makes them smell it.
Yeah.
And it's like,
he says, yep, that's bleach.
Yeah. Fucking bleach. Please stop making me smell bleach.
Yeah. And then the man in black holding it, takes a swig and passes it to the other guy.
And he takes a swig.
I assume he passed it to the left because that's proper etiquette. He takes a swig, and then the third guy drains it.
Finishes the bottle. And then they fucking bounce.
And then they're like, that's not, that's, again, and these are actually, like, if this was like one story, I don't know if I'd believe it, but there are enough weird-ass Men in Black stories that I actually think this probably happened.
And then, like, one of the biggest things that I didn't realize was the beginning of the end wasn't in Point Pleasant. It actually took place in this place called Mount Misery, Long Island. This chick got, what?
She was abducted.
She was abducted.
And John Keel, she started corresponding with John Keel. Keel put her under hypnosis, and during that session, she said that there's going to be a disaster in Point Pleasant on December 15th, 1967. And this was, I think, 2 to 3 months before. And Keel, he believed her, and he jumped to the conclusion, which is a reasonable conclusion, that
a bunch of other shit happened for that. She went to a library. She was told by the Men in Black. I think it was Injured Cole, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, to go to the library and look at a book with a page number.
Yeah.
So she gets to the library, and there's this weird-ass librarian.
There's no one in the library except for this bizarre librarian.
Dressed in, like, 1930s clothes. And
same complexion as the Men in Black, too.
And the exact book she was looking for was already on the desk.
Yeah.
So she's like, can I borrow that book? And she turns to the page, and the wording on the page got smaller and smaller and smaller until it was illegible. And then it grew bigger and bigger and bigger, and it was just like, hey, we have chosen you.
Yeah.
We will be reaching out to you, look for the signs. Sincerely, your buddy, the Men in Black.
Yeah.
And she's like, what the fuck is this?
I think it was signed, your pal.
Yeah, your pal.
Yeah.
And she's like, what the fuck is this? So she leaves the library, and this chick is just trying to live her life, yo.
Yeah.
It's like imagine you work at Pizza Hut and all you want to do is deliver pizza, but suddenly you're beset by the fucking extraterrestrial beings from another dimension who want you to, like, do weird shit. And so she starts seeing the library everywhere.
Yeah, the librarian. Yeah, the librarian starts to follow her. Everywhere.
And the librarian gets her in contact with this guy named Paul.
Yeah.
Because she, like, just completely...
Apple. APOL.
Which is, like, I mean, invest in that stock.
Yeah.
And so she's like, we've been trying to reach you.
Yeah.
We were going to send you a disc or whatever. And she gets this fucking disc. It's like data disc.
Yeah, I don't think it was a data disc.
It's just a disc?
It was just a disc. It was like a metal disc.
Dude, it's got to be a data disc.
They didn't have data. They didn't have magnetic data then.
We don't have data discs back then. But extraterrestrial interdimensional beings with Like,
but how would you read it?
the Men in Black are weird. Look, I don't sit here and go, hey, you know what? What are their fucking things?
But like John Keel. She sent it to John Keel, and he like took a look at it and sent it back to her, and it came back to her like melted, sort of malformed, smelling of rotten eggs.
Yeah, and that's when she was told by Andrew Cole that something disastrous would happen on December 15th, 1967.
In Point Pleasant.
In Point Pleasant. And that was 3 months before it occurred.
And John Keel assumed that the disaster would be centered around one of two power plants that no longer exist here. They were put there by the military and during World War II. He assumed that the disaster would be centered around those plants, and actually, that is one thing that the Mothman Prophecies movie with Richard Gere did actually sort of get right. It's just out of nowhere this bridge stuffed with Christmas traffic collapsed, and actually. Mary Hyre had actually had a premonition of this. She kept having dreams of Christmas presents floating in the water. Mary Hyre did. She told John Keel about these premonitions, and they really didn't know what to make of them until they happened, and there were Christmas presents floating in the water.
Yeah.
And 46.
Because it happened at peak time for rush hour on December 15th.
Yeah,
when
people were shopping for Christmas.
And it was just like, it was such a disaster.
Yeah.
46 people were dead. 5 died on the shore from hypothermia. And
they didn't recover most bodies. Honestly, they got washed away. The Ohio rivers got a pretty fast current. And it's pretty big, and it feeds into the Mississippi.
So we're suddenly sitting here with like extraterrestrial reports from Mothman, beings that may or may not have phased into this existence.
Mm-hmm.
Weird ass men in black walking around that almost seem like demonic versions of us.
Yeah.
And just a shit ton of supernatural happenings.
Yeah, there's apparently a lot of poltergeist activity. People reported doors slamming in their homes, that type of thing. Stuff flying off of shelves, lights and stuff turning off. All kinds of high strangeness. I think that is the best term for this.
This high strangeness.
So
let's delve into possible theories of what each of them are. Starting with the Men in Black.
My theory is that they are. Okay. So there are two theories that I like.
Let me do the TC one.
Okay.
I want to do the TC.
Or you do the TC one.
No, I want to do that. But
okay.
Go ahead with your theory.
Okay, my theory is that they are interdimensional in nature, and they are. I don't know how to explain this totally, but maybe at a quantum level, they're not fully phased with our, like, fully in the frequency of our universe, because they seem to have some trouble communicating. They have a lot of there's a lot of weird tics going on. They also one thing that makes me think that they are not necessarily humans as we would think of humans is a guy named Jack Brown who showed up at Mary Hyre's office, who was tall, lanky, had extremely long fingers, and was described as looking like he had no bones in his wrist. But, which, you would assume that somebody like that would be extremely weak. As it turns out, he was extremely strong. He grasped onto an old metal filing cabinet on the top of it and literally left fingerprints in it, like crushed it, which I don't know any human, man, female, who can do that with just one hand. So I think they're visitors from maybe another dimension, and they're either because they're also discouraging people from talking about Mothman or UFOs. They're telling people that John Keel is a liar, Jack LaLanne is a liar, Hynek's a liar. They're definitely trying to throw misinformation, but the U.S. government is very good at what's called psyops, and just going around saying John Keel's a liar. That's not the best run psyop.
Not necessarily. Okay, so hear this out, right? If you really want to discourage something in this country, you discourage it at its source. Right, so if you're running around going, John Keel is a liar, and everybody that says the Mothman is real is crazy, you're essentially being like the keep on, carry on mentality, right? So it's like...
I think the way they went about it, though, is not the way that...
it wasn't the most efficient.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like, especially by the 60s, the CIA had definitely had... psychological operations like down pretty well,
What? When did they do MK Ultra?
I mean, it was around the same time. The beginnings of MK Ultra go all the way back to the 50s, but under Project
Blue Book.
No, Blue Book is the UFO one. That happened a little later. It's not Paperclip. That was the Nazi one. I can't remember.
We'll figure it out.
The CIA has a very unique way of naming their ops. But yeah, I don't believe that these men in black had any contact with. They definitely had no contact with law enforcement here. They definitely. I don't think that they were of a government agency. I don't think they were working in concert with the U.S. government. I think the U.S. government actually did their best to actually hide a lot of this stuff. They blockaded for a short time when the Mothman was sort of like on the run. The National Guard blockaded parts of Point Pleasant. I don't think that they were working with the men in black that were present. And again, I think there's an interdimensional nature to this, and I think there's an interdimensional nature to all of these happenings. So, including poltergeist activity, UFO activity, cryptid activity, and the Men in Black activity.
So you essentially got a theory, or actually two theories there. That one, it's CIA agents trying to track down the Mothman, which honestly I don't subscribe to that. That's too easy.
It's too easy.
Two, they're interdimensional beings that are actually appearing on our plane of existence, trying to see what's going on, trying to interact with us. So that brings us to our final one. This is the final theory, and though it's not the one I subscribe to, it's the one I find the most.
Probably my favorite.
It's my favorite theory.
Yeah.
They were time cops. That's right. Jean-Claude Van Damme coming back from the future to stop the Mothman.
Yep.
And other cryptids. They think that they're time cops because they wear specific suits, right?
Yeah.
If you wear a black suit, you can fit in the 1920s and the 1990s.
Pretty much the last century you could fit in.
Anywhere.
Yeah.
And so it's like they show up where cryptids show up. So the theory is that they're here from the future to stop them.
Yes, the cryptids are some sort of uh, uh, extremely evolved creatures that have come back in time to fuck with us.
And you know what? I don't care how much Aleister Crowley makes sense. I'm going with Time Cop.
Yeah.
Because I want Jean-Claude Van Damme from the future in my life.
And you know what? I think time crime is the best crime.
Time crime, guys. Don't commit it. Or the time cops are coming for you. You'll have a fucking meeting with the Men in Black.
And you know, this all, I guess, to lend it some credence, I guess, you could kind of tie it all into the Mandela effect.
Oh yeah.
But I actually don't think the Mandela effect has anything to do with time.
I actually do.
I think it has more. I think it's actually. I think that is an interdimensional sort of bleed over of universes that, you know, people remember a certain event one way that really happened in history a different way. Like Nelson Mandela, people remember him, you know, dying in prison when actually, you know, he led South Africa to, to what was called reconciliation.
The best way to describe the Mandela effect is, if you guys have seen Loki, you remember how they have that that fucking division that straight up stops time from fracturing?
Oh man, those guys were time cops.
Those are time cops.
Yeah, that's time crime.
The Mandela effect essentially states that something could change in our reality that alters the reality that we're on. And while some of us may remember the old reality, some of us know the new one.
Yeah.
You know? So the theory is the Men in Black are time cops that are sent back in time to stop the cryptids from fucking up our reality.
Yeah. Somehow fixing history.
Fixing history. And I actually think that it could bleed into that because time, in my theory, is concurrent. Time is a man-made idea that is used to just measure the passage of something. But there is really no time dimension. Like, if we all decided to be in the medieval ages tomorrow, we'd be in the medieval ages. You know, it's like...
There's a book about that. It's a fiction book, I think it's called Time and Again, something like that. They're basically a bunch of people who are sort of like psychically tuned a certain way are put into a giant sound stage that resembles a certain time period. They're put in costume, and then suddenly they travel in time.
Yeah. And that's think of time as a flat plane, right? All that we exist in is now. And I know it's a little hard to wrap your head around, in my head, don't get me wrong. But if that's the case, there's probably something policing it, aka time cops, that are making sure that there's no bumps in that road. You know, like, and I'll give you some great examples of the Mandela effect. Kit Kat used to have a bar in it.
What?
Yeah. Here's the thing. People think Kit Kat, and some of them think there was a bar between the Kit and the Kat, and some people think that there never was.
Explain that to me.
Okay, you know how, like, K-I-T, K-A-T is how it's written now?
Yeah.
Some people remember there being a bar, K-I-T, bar, K-A-T. Like a horizontal.
Oh, a bar. You mean like a dash?
Yeah, like a dash. Like Kit Kat.
There isn't a dash?
Mandela effect. You know, like the Sinbad supposedly appeared in a movie in the 1980s as a genie that a lot of people remember but no longer exists.
It was Shaq.
Yeah, I mean, it could have just been Shaq. But the biggest one, and the one that like completely
This one bothers me like crazy.
Bernstein Bears.
It's not the Bernstein Bears.
It's spelled B-E-R-E-N-S-T-A-I-N.
Bernstein.
In this reality. Whereas I specifically remember it being spelled B-E-R-E-N Stein.
Yes, I remember them being Steins. Bernsteins.
So the theory that the time cops are here to stop the cryptids from fucking up our reality
somehow screwed up our childhood literature.
Yeah, I'll let you guys think on that for a second.
I absolutely remember it being the Bernstein Bears. My mother definitely read it to me as the Bernstein Bears.
I remember the Bernstein Bears.
I 100% want to believe that it is a interdimensional flap, but more than likely, my mother just didn't read it right.
Well, I mean,
pronounced it wrong.
But then you got Mandala.
I know. The Mandela one, I have trouble with that one because I don't remember him dying.
Some people remember him dying in like the 1990s.
No. I think it was 80s.
Or in 1980s.
Whenever he was in prison. He was in prison for a while. People remember him dying in prison.
People remember him dying in prison, but the reality that we live in, he actually got out of prison a free man and died. And now we're at fucking...
I'm going to start my own fucking YouTube channel. Where I talk politics, guys. And we're gonna talk seriously. I'm a socialist. I'm a gun owner. And I don't know. I'm ready to throw down.
Time crimes. Alright. So we are back on track, guys. We had to make a massive cut there. But we had we are talking about time crimes. And we're gonna move on from the Men in Black because I think pretty much all we need to really say has been said about it.
I think you're right.
Yeah. So we're gonna move on to what's the Mothman?
What is the Mothman?
You know, I know a lot of you watching this have probably been waiting for this point. And let me tell you, I have definitively made up my mind about what I think the Mothman is. And that is, I don't fucking know. This thing has appeared right before disasters all across the globe, right? We got it in Point Pleasant, West Virginia, right before the bridge collapsed. We had sightings of it at the Twin Towers in New York, probably. Sure. Yeah. Well,
I don't know. I can't cite any of that. I do know that it appeared in Chicago fairly recently. It's appeared in other places where disasters have happened.
It appears in places right before a disaster occurs, like a major one. It's shown up in Chernobyl. Yeah,
the Point Pleasant experiences are the most reported on and probably the most valid. But yeah, it definitely people saw it before Chernobyl in that general area. People view it as a harbinger of doom, some sort of warning.
Some people also see, the thing is, I can definitively tell you it's not a fucking sand crane.
Yeah, definitely not a crane.
It's not a crane. I don't look at a crane and go, oh man, I don't know if I could sleep for 3 fucking days.
Also, you know what? They're not black.
They're not black.
They're white.
Yeah,
they got white feathers.
Yeah, even against the black sky, you'd be able to tell that.
Actually, yeah, I didn't think about that.
They have white feathers. They don't bring impending sense of doom and dread, and they don't show up in Chernobyl.
Well, also they're not really indigenous to Point Pleasant either.
No.
They sort of migrate in this general vicinity.
They come through Point Pleasant,
but kind of hundreds of miles away. Even they're really not indigenous to this area.
But yeah, they don't hang out in Point Pleasant. Yeah. It's not like one of their stops.
Yeah,
you know. Which brings me to think that yes, I believe they're interdimensional beings that can phase in and out of this reality. I I like the Crowley idea that they're from the fucking Black Lodge.
Mm-hmm.
I've never really heard of a Mothman attacking somebody. Which
we have not. Yeah, there actually really has not been. The Mothman has chased people, but he has never hurt anybody.
he's never
aside from the conjunctivitis.
He is a watcher, right? So I believe he shows up to watch these events unfold.
It's definitely an observer.
He's an observer. Now, I can tell you this: if I started seeing a Mothman around fucking Sterling, Virginia, I'd probably go into lockdown.
Yeah.
I'd be like, all right, well, I'm not going to leave the house.
Yeah.
Because generally, it does seem like trouble seems to follow.
Yep. And you know, whether it's a disaster or the Men in Black or a tiny little man with a bowl cut who's talking backwards,
The dwarf.
it's some weird shit.
The dwarf who loves music.
Yep. Was the dwarf on the talk backwards?